Hello, community. Naomi here from Aged Care Ready and founder of our wonderful Facebook group, Aging Parents Support Group. Welcome to our second live session. Today we are joined by the great Travis Kluckhenn from Pathways Physiotherapy in Ferntree Gully, Melbourne. Welcome, Travis.
G'day, Naomi. How are you? Thank you for your lovely and warm welcome. I've never been called great ever before in my life, I don't think.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
It certainly is.
Before we get started, let's have a chat about you and what you do and what your business is.
Sounds great. Well, my name's Travis Kluckhenn, as you mentioned, and I'm a physiotherapist. And I've been working as a physiotherapist for just over 15 years now. And after working in a number of different environments, hospital, rehab centre, aged care, I've landed in private practice, and I've had my own private practice business for the last 5 years called Pathways Physiotherapy. And we specialise in helping make people active, healthy and happy.
That sounds great. And I guess what I really wanted to touch on today is about the current climate and obviously social distancing being a really important issue, and isolation, self-isolation and things like that. That really makes it harder for especially our elderly loved ones. It makes it harder for them to access the help they need, especially in terms of physiotherapy and things like that. So let's get started with the first question. What impact does being isolated have on physical health, pain and injury?
Yeah, I think this is a massive one, to be honest, and particularly with our age population. Clearly, our age population are already fairly sedentary enough for a number of health reasons and also social reasons. But now that they're forced to stay inside their homes, and they're particularly vulnerable if they go outside, right? So there's certainly a high level of risk that they're likely to be sedentary. And then being sedentary can lead to certain joints and muscles becoming quite stiff. It can lead to arthritic pain getting slightly worse. And it can also just lead to a general lack of exercise and conditioning. And if it's over a prolonged period of time, that can cause other problems to flare up, other musculoskeletal problems, pain and injury to flare up.
Yeah. So how do you think our elderly loved ones could combat this from home?
I think we just need to find a way to encourage our parents, grandparents, and all of the age population to just be as active as they possibly can within their homes. Certainly getting up regularly and just walking around the house, I think is really important. Getting out of their garden, I think is important, particularly if the weather is okay. Or even just introducing little exercise routines into their daily life is really important. So something as simple as getting in and out of the chair can be quite a good exercise. It's similar to a squat. So just doing something simple like that 10 times, perhaps 2-3 times during the day, is enough to help keep the muscles of the hips and knees strong, which can have a real positive impact on their overall health and wellness throughout this period.
Keeping that strength up, I imagine, also would help prevent falls and things like that as well. Is that right?
100%, absolutely. And exercise to improve strength will help with balance and prevent falls. Also, just generally walking around and moving, and particularly doing things on an uneven surface like out in the garden, increases their ability to deal with undulating ground, which tests their balance, which actually helps maintain their balance. And it also gets them more confident. Sometimes I think, if you've been sitting in the house, or if you've had a really big night and the next morning you've been in bed or just sitting around all day, and then say you go out a few hours later, or if you that evening, you just feel like you don't quite have your legs when you first get up and go. But as you get older, that gets compounded. So regularly getting up and moving around certainly helps with balance as well.
Yeah. And speaking from personal experience, and I know that I'm not old, but I know that when I stay home and don't do anything, are you laughing at me? I'm not that old. I know that when I'm at home and I haven't been doing anything all day because I haven't been able to, I'm actually more exhausted than if I had been out and doing things like cleaning the house, out in the garden and things like that. So I imagine that it is actually a really positive benefit for somebody who is elderly as well.
100%. And, you know, as you say, we feel it. So it only becomes more magnified as you get older, obviously. And the more that people can be getting up frequently and moving around, the less likely they are to feel that stiffness and feel that tightness when they do get up. But I can also understand that particularly if you have someone who's got suffering from knee or hip pain, if you sit for a while, those pains will usually get a little bit worse. And then you get up and then it's quite sore to move. And then you think, okay, well, I don't want to move too much because it's making me sore. So then you kind of stop moving, you sit more, and then that makes it even worse again. And then the longer you sit for, the harder it is to overcome the pain that then happens when you get up and start walking and walking up and down steps in the home and things like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of exercises that our elderly loved ones could do while they're at home. You mentioned some sitting exercises and some steps and things like that. Is there any other exercises that you would suggest, especially for those who might have some osteoarthritis pain in their hips or knees?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's actually quite a plethora of exercises that you can do. And there's been some really good research on strength exercises for people, particularly with hip and knee osteoarthritis as well. And I can perhaps spell that out in a bit more detail in a moment. But even just simplistically, as I said before, getting in and out of the chair 10 to 12 times in a row is a really good exercise. Standing up and going up onto your tippy toes while holding onto a chair in front of you for balance is a really good exercise for calf strength, which is also really good for walking. Standing and doing those exercises where you're moving your leg out to the side and repeating that 10 to 12 times is a really good exercise. Moving the leg backwards and using your buttock muscles or your gluteals is a really good exercise to do. So there are some fairly simple exercises that anyone can do without any equipment that will help maintain that strength and maintain the conditioning throughout this period.
Yeah. Now, you and I spoke off camera before about the acronym GLAAD, G-L-A-D. Could you explain to us what that stands for and what it means?
Absolutely, because me and the team are really passionate about this. So GLAAD stands for Good Living with Arthritis, Denmark. And it was actually a program that was developed in Denmark and is now being rolled out in a number of countries around the world, including Australia. And it's based off some really solid research that was done. In fact, quite a lot of research that was pulled together where they found that if someone is able to perform 30 to 60 minutes of exercise at least twice a week over a course of 6 weeks, that had a very significant impact on osteoarthritis pain to the hip and knee, as in it reduced it significantly. It reduced the requirement for taking pain medication significantly. It improved function and improved quality of life. And that was improved even further if the person ups the exercise from twice a week to 3 times a week. And even further again still if they did it for 12 weeks instead of 6 weeks. So there's really good evidence that regular exercise is really important for people suffering from arthritis, but they developed a very specific program that includes strength training, mobility training, balance training, and neuromuscular exercise. And there are actually about 6 or 7 different sets of exercises that are very specific for people with pain in their hip and knee. And it's designed to be manageable for someone who's got quite significant pain. So as you can imagine, if you've got pain in your knee, quite a lot of exercises are likely to hurt you. Well, these exercises are designed not only to not hurt you, but allow you to do them safely without any aggravation.
Yeah. That sounds really interesting. I imagine that, and you would be able to shed more light on this, especially with the colder weather coming up. Would that affect the pain more significantly than in the warmer months?
Really, really interesting question, because there's so much mixed research and evidence about this. And, there's been studies over the years that have said that arthritic pain or pain in general going up in winter is rubbish, and there's no correlation between temperature. However, anecdotally, 100% we see more people coming through the clinic over the winter months. So whether it's the temperature affecting their joints, or whether it's just because it's cold and dark, we're not actually getting outside as much. We're staying inside more often, sitting more, which then leads to more pain, particularly to hips, knees, and backs. I'm not sure what it is, but anecdotally, we certainly see more people coming in the winter, even though the evidence might not necessarily back that up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess coupled, with daylight savings finishing, it's getting colder, it's getting darker, and on top of that, we're social distancing and self-isolating. It's more important now to keep our joints warm and moving than it ever was
Absolutely.
before.
100%. Yeah, really important at the moment. And it always is at this time of year, and it's just absolutely 10x'd at the moment, given the current situation with COVID.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to today's conversation?
I guess probably the message that I want to get at, particularly to, I guess, sons and daughters of loved ones that might be vulnerable at the moment, might be in isolation, might have arthritic pain, is to first of all just really pick up the phone and have a chat to them and try and really encourage them to do some of those simple exercises, getting in and out of the chair, walking around the house regularly, doing some of those other exercises. I think that would have a big impact, and try to encourage them to get into a bit of a routine with that. Do it regularly. Maybe it's easier to do it just every day. Get up in the morning and just do it then, so that they actually get it done and remember to get it done. I think that's really, really important. And if you're getting a bit of pushback and they're saying, oh, look, but it's just too sore, that's what I would look at, getting a physiotherapist involved to try and help, I guess, guide your parent with the right exercises for them that doesn't elicit too much pain, but still is effective at helping them stay active and relieve their pain.
Yeah.
And certainly at the moment, sorry, I was just going to say as well that there's a big emphasis on telehealth right now as well. And I certainly know at the clinic now, we're doing a mixture of telehealth and also still some face-to-face consultations. And certainly for vulnerable people, predominantly the age, we're doing a lot more telehealth with them. And a number of practices are doing so. So if you've got a local physio that you use, certainly make inquiries, because they may well be using telehealth. And you don't have to be technologically savvy like you would think. The ways that we're able to do it now are designed to be super, super easy. Literally one click of a button on a mobile, on a tablet, desktop computer, or laptop is all you need. And suddenly you have a physio like myself, smiling face, smiling back at you. So it can be really easy.
So are you utilizing things like FaceTime to do these telehealth appointments? How does that work, or is it like an app that they have to download?
Really, really good question. Don't need to download anything. The video conference runs within our practice management software. So when we make a booking for someone, they'll get an email confirming that booking time. And in that email will just be a link that says, click here at the time of your booking. And then when the booking comes, I don't need to download anything. I just click the link, and the screen will actually just pop up in their browser, and it'll literally be me there on the other end. And then we can start the consultation. And then as far as exercises are concerned, we use an exercise app that allows us to put exercise or videos of exercises into the app that we can then send as an email as well, so that the client can view their exercises either through the app or online, and also register when they've done the exercises. So we can actually track how often are they doing the exercises. Are they doing the exercises as often as we've asked? And also they can track their pain, so that we can track, is their pain too much with this exercise? Perhaps we need to substitute it out or modify it in some way so that we're not getting the same level of pain. So it's really, it's super useful.
So as long as they know how to access their email and click a link, they should be right. That's a lot more easier than I thought it would be, to be honest.
Yeah, it's easier than I thought it was going to be when we were looking to transition. Because obviously, when COVID broke, this was the first thing we thought of, and there were some other platforms that were a bit more clunky. But this we use Clinico, give them a bit of a shout out. But they've just worked to make it as super easy for the client as possible.
Mm-hmm. So just to recap, if your elderly loved one is suffering from osteoarthritic pain at home and doesn't have the ability to do exercises on their own, and they need a little bit of extra support from a physiotherapist, give your local physio a call, and they should have this telehealth set up for, hopefully. Otherwise, feel free to give Travis a call and his team at Pathways Physiotherapy.
Yep, we're absolutely happy to help.
Well, thank you for joining me tonight, Travis. I know it's a late one for you, but I really appreciate your time and your knowledge. So thank you again for joining us. And hopefully all of our viewers out there got something really useful out of this, and join us next time for our next session. Good night.
Thank you.